Hello, hello, and welcome to Infinitely Lily. My name is Maria, and I am a trance channel and an intuitive energy reader, and I deliver messages to the awakening collective of twin flames, soulmates, starseeds, empaths, and all other energetically sensitive archetypes. Today, I'm just going to allow Spirit to connect with me now and deliver any messages. I'm just going to open myself right up, as I never really have a full idea of what's coming through here. I just sense the energy and I come online. All right, so there's been so much going on here over the last 2 weeks, with a lot of the Russian Ukraine energies being felt physically by the entire collective. Many of us are feeling the intense emotional uproaring that's that's been caused due to this conflict that we're seeing on the more physical plane in Europe and Russia. And I feel as though this is just a very obvious projection of what's happening inside of us. If you've watched my last videos, I've been talking a lot about the merging of the divine feminine and the divine masculine as one. I realized in my last video, my second last video, talking about the merging of the divine feminine and divine masculine, I had said that I had met my divine masculine, but I never actually specified that I meant in my inner masculine. My inner divine masculine has awoken, and I've started to see him inside of me, as my masculine part of me. And I think this is whom we are all looking for when we talk about twin flame relationships, or our divine counterpart is our divine counterpart within us. So, on a collective level, the divine feminine has been completely suppressed um, for eons and eons, as we know. I have seen and heard folktale of, if that's the right word, of the divine feminine actually being the hierarchy or the prominent energy in previous eras. So even the Egyptian era, the divine feminine was more dominant than divine masculine, or perhaps it was more imbalanced. And I believe that's why the Egyptians, in what I've seen, have did ascend to a different frequency, and that's why they have nothing here left besides their ruins. They energetically shifted dimensions to a different reality, which is really what we're doing here. We're going up a golden staircase step by step, dimension by dimension, preferably within our bodies, bringing our bodies with us. That is the grand goal. Lots of us, I know this is a completely different tangent, but I'm just going with what Spirit's giving me now. Lots of us choose to reincarnate over and over again because we are committed to ascending within the physical body. In the Buddhism religion, they believe that you get stuck here and you have to reincarnate and you have to stay here until your karma is finished. And what I've seen is that's kind of a limited belief coming from a very extreme imbalance of kind of self punishment. As a lot of religions kind of have this overarching energy of condemnation. And what I've seen is we have chosen, many of us have chosen to stay close to earth until we ascend. So we do choose to come back right after we pass on if we die, and we come straight back because we don't want to miss a beat. We just like keep going, keep going. It's like you're playing Super Nintendo and you're trying to beat the whole thing, right? You're just going to keep going and going and get new lives and come back and redo it over and over and over again. It's not that you're doing it wrong, it's just that it's just the process that you've chosen to be here for. And it does take some time as we move through into the age of Aquarius. Now these energies are picking up and we're seeing ourselves literally and physically ascending on all levels. Ascension, as I've seen it, isn't something that is like a rocket ship taking off or you like waking up in a different dimension. It is a very gradual process that as our bodies awaken, as we come into greater balance within ourselves, we start purging out all of these extreme imbalances that we see collectively, the extreme imbalances of the feminine ego and the masculine ego. So the feminine ego has been suppressed making it an ego. Anything that is out of balance becomes negative energy. So the feminine ego was suppressed. Therefore, as it works, when something becomes a negative, the other thing has to become positive when it's out of balance. So it's forced to be suppressed. When the masculine ego is too much, the feminine ego can be too little. It has to be too little. It has to mirror itself. It has to balance itself. I've been talking about this in the last few videos, or this is really what I talk about here, is collective balance. If you can envision a tunnel or a funnel, a tube around your body, and within this tube, Spirit has deemed this the Goldilocks zone. It's not too little, it's not too much, it's not too cold, it's not too hot, it's the perfect zone. So within this zone, we have our center. If we can get to our center with every feeling and emotion, the emotion of, so if you have an extreme, that means that there's an opposite extreme. So that means that something is out of balance. And we've been talking about this lots. If love is in balance, then everything else becomes in balance. When love gets out of balance, if there's too much love, there will also be not enough love. And you will cycle through these infinite cycles until you fix the cycle and you bring it back into balance. That's really what we're doing here. So if you have an imbalance of love, which will cascade to a million other imbalances and will get you creating hell on earth or whatever, this is really what happens. And during your awakening, all you're trying to do is you're trying to navigate back to your center. You're trying to navigate back to remembering how to balance love and what love truly is. That is why during our spiritual awakening, I talked about this last video, you're going to instantly balance love because you remember God and you remember source and you remember instantly the feeling of unconditional love, and everything just balances for a little while. Sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 2 days, sometimes it's 2 months, depends on the person. And then you start to slowly recreate these things that you thought were gone, because on an energetic level everything was in balance, but your neurological level, so your programmings, your physical programmings in your brain, in your organs where you store memory, you didn't know why or how you restored love to balance. So you weren't capable of staying there. So slowly your old conditioning started to recreate these imbalances. And that is part of, like I've said before, the dark night of the soul. This is the shadow work. So you have the dark night of the soul because then you realize, oh my God, I had this beautiful state of love and now it's gone. So you have your dark night of the soul, a hard time, and then you start doing your shadow work. Lots of people get stuck in their dark night of the soul for a long time because they're trying to hold on to who they used to be as this perfectly balanced individual, the highest version of themselves, and they might get stuck in the dark night of the soul for years. But eventually they come around and they start to do their shadow work. And I've talked about this before, the shadow work, like a ball of yarn. You must be guided through this experience. Sorry, I got some black on my fingers. Must be guided through this experience, really from your inner guide, your compass, your inner compass, which you will have to balance before your shadow work begins. And it's like a ball of yarn, like I said, and if you try using your mind to find the beginning of the ball of yarn, you're going to end up grabbing the wrong piece and you're going to get a big ball of mess, or you might grab like the false string that actually is connected to the inside of the ball of yarn, and now you're pulling it from the inside out. And if you try to do it blindly, which means that you're using your mind to guide you, you're going to make a big mess and you're going to have to do it all over again. Trust me, I've done it. So if you be patient and you learn to meditate and you learn to ground yourself, this is very important, ground yourself, and you learn to meditate, then when you start to do your shadow work, it's going to be this flawless process because you're going to be in your heart. Even if your love is out of balance, you can still be in your heart, and your heart will guide you what you need to do to take off this layer, this layer of yarn, and then this layer of yarn, and then this layer of yarn, until you can work all the way to the center. Your heart will guide you. You have to get in touch with your heart and your intuition so that it can take you through that process without your mind doesn't know how to lead. It doesn't want to lead. It is like an alpha dog. Alpha dogs, they don't want to be the alpha. Being the alpha is so much stress and pressure. Nobody wants to be the alpha. They actually enjoy being the happy-go-lucky middle of the pack. So when you finally, say enough is enough, I'm no longer letting my mind lead me and listening to my angel and my devil yelling back and forth about how I should be better or why I'm not good enough. You finally silence that energy. You see your mind surrender to the middle of the pack, and he's just like, oh, thank God, I had no idea what I was doing. And I've been talking about this in all my videos, but trying to bring them all together here. And your mind surrenders and he goes and lays down on a beach and he's like, oh yeah, she's got this. The mind is going to help us navigate through past experiences and anticipate the future. That's what it's meant to do. It's meant to sense the energy in our fields based on what we've experienced before and what we're moving into. So we always listen to the mind. What does it have to say? We don't have to believe it, but we validate it. We reassure it if it's coming from a trauma or a fear. So it's like, oh yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I needed a reminder about that. Or yes, I know this happened last time, but I assure you this isn't going to happen again. And we had that little pep talk with our mind, and our mind starts to come back into center, balancing itself, removing all of these imbalances that we've experienced that has caused us to come out of our balance, out of our center. And the mind starts to work with us rather than against us. And that is when everything starts to merge together as one. And those energies are so readily available to many of us right now, as many of us are going through this process. Whether we've been fully conscious of it or not is a different story. But many of us have had these experiences over the last few years because these energies are picking up. People are waking up, as you've heard. In the past, it was more sporadic. The higher, more advanced souls were waking up, and really helping everyone else. And now it's more like a wave, right? Where there's waves of people waking up. Just your everyday person, like the person that you never thought. Me before my spiritual awakening, I always believed in a higher power, but I didn't even know what spiritual meant or a soul. I didn't know anything. And then I got hit. I seen the light, literally. I seen God. I touched God. And I remembered everything instantly and got downloaded with everything all at once. And it was very, very intense for me. And what I learned is that you must learn how to ground yourself. I didn't know what grounding was. I was always kind of I had never been ungrounded really before because I was never actually enticed these energies before. And so it was exciting to be ungrounded. It felt very light. And because I went into my head, I was in my mind. After a spiritual awakening generally comes the mental awakening. This is where you can get trapped. This is where the dark night of the soul generally starts. The mental awakening, people get stuck in their head, and that causes them to not be present. When you're not present, when you're not in your reality, you become ungrounded. Grounded is actually just a feeling. The feeling of groundedness means that you're not thinking, you're not somewhere else in your mind. Your mind is an independent energy that will go. When you're thinking about a beach, it's going to be sitting at a beach. When you're thinking about what you did yesterday, it's going to be in yesterday, or it's going to be in the future. It will be gone from you. It's not here. So you have to bring your mind back. That's what meditation does. So all you do is literally you just relax. You breathe. Breathing brings your mind back to the present. I went on a journey to Peru a few years ago, and I did ayahuasca. And I went out of my body. I got sucked into a snail shell, into the Fibonacci sequence, and I was into the realm of abstract thought. And it was very intense. I had no idea where my body was, absolutely no idea. But I could hear myself breathing. So I knew my body was okay. And I knew I would get back to it eventually. But the only thing that guided me back to my body was my breath. As my mind, I was my mind on a journey. So it is very important to connect with the breath, as it is the thing that can help you connect everything together. Everyone might have their own strategy for relaxation. Relaxation is going to help you connect with your breath, and it's going to help your mind start to surrender back into its home, which is like, for me, I've seen that the seat of the soul. So the seat is at the back of the bus, the mind's in the middle, and the heart leads. If we get all three of those in alignment, that's when we really start to see everything in our lives attracting to us. The masculine energy of manifestation and the feminine energy of creation both connect at once, and it's this beautiful energy of magnetic energies just pulling from both ways. And that's when we just start experiencing bliss and euphoria in life. Yes, so you start to breathe. As you breathe, your mind is going to come back to its brain, where it governs generally. We always are using our brain for so much stuff, even though our heart has just as much memory and just as much magnetism, and it's just as strong a force field. We just associate the mind with the brain. But we can feel the mind come to the brain. You generally will start to feel your third eye thump. If you overthink, your third eye generally will be overactive. Therefore, when you bring your mind to your third eye, it's going to feel like pressure. Lots of people associate this like, oh, this is a good thing. It's just showing that there's too much going on there. So from there, you're gonna feel that your mind is in your brain or in your third eye. And from there, you're going to relax and you're going to feel it literally surrender itself back into its natural state, governing the heart, governing the center. So if you want to just breathe and relax your shoulders, you might feel that happen now as I hold space for you to really find this place. If you ever find that when you're listening to someone that motivates you or listening to someone who inspires you or a role model, you might mimic their energy after a while. And that's because energy is capable, you're capable of taking on someone else's energy, good or bad. Comes through awareness if you want to do it. But for me, I've always been this way, and now I've learned to have very strong energetic boundaries with those that I don't want to take on their energy, but with those who I enjoy their energy, I allow that energy, and then I can download what they're giving out, what the files they have available for me. Every time we pass by someone, we exchange files with them. We don't have to. We can have energetic boundaries against not taking on what we don't want. And I've talked about those before in my previous videos, but we can also choose to download information that is for our greatest good, that really serves us. And this is what happens when I say I'm holding space for you. So I'm allowing you to have access the energy that I'm in right now. So that can help you automatically know what to do, even though if you've never done it before, just because we're connected right now and you have access to my files. So just breathe here. Once you start to connect and bring up yourself to your center through meditation, especially lately, and this might be available to the collective. It's a very advanced form of meditation, but I feel that advanced meditation is becoming more accessible. Once you connect with your center, you might feel in your brain negative or toxic thought patterns actually hurting. I believe lots of times we associate this with a headache or a migraine. Lots of people who have migraines probably have very dominant thought patterns that are very toxic to their system, and they might get stuck in it. I see a lot of people who have migraines are stuck in a state of fearing like something really bad is going to happen to them, or just in a state of helplessness. So if you're triggered with a migraine, try to check your thoughts, check your emotions. Like, how am I feeling? Am I feeling like a helpless victim right now? And if you are, then you probably are feeling the toxicity of the cycle that's out of balance, that's playing out in your mind. So as imbalances work, when something's in balance, it's negative if it's less, or if it's too much, then it's positive. Um, we can feel these imbalances as long as we choose to. So if we are negatively imbalanced, we have care is a big one that's a tricky one. All of the feminine ego energies are very tricky. When we say like hate, we associate the masculine ego with the devil energies or 3D energies, and we associate the feminine ego with the spiritual ego, or the good, this is the good ego and the bad ego, and this is the angel and the devil, and the feminine ego and the masculine ego. The feminine ego has been the silent killer. It is the very stealthy ego. It is the road to hell was paved with good intentions. That's what the angel is. She is overly imbalanced. She has too much of a good thing, is no longer a good thing. It becomes just as toxic as a bad thing, which we label bad. So if we have too much caring, or too much love, or too much empathy, or too much drive, or too much pride, or too much whatever, those energies no longer exist as there naturally were. My little baby woke up. So I might have to do a part 2 to this video because I don't want to edit it. Hey. But we can stay as long as we want in these energies. But that is going to be part 2 of our video here. So we will see you soon.